Mother Ocean, after all the years I've found my occupational hazard being my occupation's just not around. Welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That, of course, is more Jimmy Buffett. Somebody's occupation may not be around by the time we post this podcast, if the rumors are to be believed. I'm Drew Scanlon. Joining me, Danny O'Dwyer. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing great. Are you talking about Jack Doohan or waves at any employed games journalist in the world?
Yeah. Both, I guess. Also joining us, Rob Zachney. How are you, Rob?
Oh man, doing great. I know what it's like to have a media operation shot out from under you. It makes you feel like as you make the exit, it feels like sometimes you pulled the biggest heist of your career. You're wanted men. You'll strike again, but first, let's have a beer. From the Great Filling Station, Hold Up, one of the best Jimmy Buffett songs. Very early.
Oh. Nice. If you're new to this podcast, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 298. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the podcast early. Along with bonus podcasts and videos that are exclusively for our patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on this month, Danny?
The people have voted. They have done it. They have decided the next movie that we are going to watch on the Patreon exclusive pod. The theme this month, as collated by Drew from all the suggestions we've had over the years for various car-related movies, the theme was the car chases. Is that right? I think it was car chases, classic car chases for movies. And the four, and I'll do them in order. The four that were voted for, and the eventual winner are, with 19%, Bullet, 1968 San Francisco classic. In fourth with 19%, which shows you just how tight this whole thing was.
Yeah.
The French Connection with 22%, the 1971 classic. We're also going in, I've just realized we're also going in order of years here. So maybe
bias.
Yes, exactly. With 26% in third.
I thought this was a lock. I thought the internet would vote for
You thought
The Rock.
A lock. The Rock was a lock.
Yeah.
1996 is The Rock. Not your classic car chase movie. Not even the best San Francisco car chase movie on this list, I'd argue. But hey, look.
The Citizen Kane, though, of Navy SEAL teams breaking into Alcatraz to stop Ed Harris from launching a VX gas attack on San Francisco and Nick Cage's pregnant girlfriend.
It's very true. Undefeated in that respect. And also somewhat prescient now with the soon reopening of Alcatraz.
Oh my God.
Maybe he just watched The Rock one night. But we will not be watching any of those. 1998's Ronin, starring Robert De Niro, got 33%. I have not watched Ronin in forever. I am very excited to watch Ronin.
If memory serves, I think it's stealth written by an uncredited David Mamet. Pre-David Mamet, like kind of going off the deep end and like getting right-wing pilled. Okay. Although, that was always a little bit there in his work. But like you can tell like it feels like a good David Mamet screenplay. But doesn't feel like a David Mamet movie. The best place to end up.
I mean, same as that's why I like True Romance so much.
Oh yeah.
It was written by Tarantino but directed by Tony Scott.
Yeah. How many Frankenheimers will we have watched? Is this 2 or is it?
Well, are we counting the BMW films one?
We must be counting the BMW films. Yeah.
That makes
so that's
2?
Grand Prix.
Oh shit, that's Frankenheimer. Yeah, fuck, I forgot that. Yeah.
And then this. Yeah. Incredible. This is his third last movie. Is that right? Yeah.
When did Reindeer Games come out?
2 years later. And then his last one is, I think, the last of the BMW ones. Ambush was like a short film, right? It was like after all that sort of stuff. That's
wow. I'm just I'm looking here. Thanks for sharing, Rob. The Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray link on sale today. Maybe we'll put that in show notes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the cast here. I can't wait. It's got so many.
It's got fucking everybody, dude.
Yeah.
No, this
Jean
movie's
Reno,
unimpeachable.
Sean Bean, Michael Ironside, Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh my God.
This is going to be great.
Sam Fisher's in this. Love it.
Fisher, I'm pulling you out.
It's good stuff. Ronin, we'll be recording that sometime this month, so you got time. Link to the Kino Lorber 4K print, which Rob has given us 2 thumbs up on. You can pick it up yourself, or I'm sure you can stream it somewhere in sludge mode. And then prepare yourself for our impending review. Also impending, preparing themselves to have their names slapped all over our livery are our incredible title sponsors. Matt and Harmony, Deange, It's a Me Ferrario, Get Rich, Oh Die Ryan, my Irish brother, Agave ATX, Cyphus Training, Turf SES. I need to know what SES stands for. Let me know, Cyphus Training. At Team Blackjack, Michael Maves, Cigarettes. Oh, Michael Maves has stood down.
Listen, the cigarette lobby is strong.
It's very powerful. Thank you for smoking. We should watch that sometime. Olivia Evans, telemetrydeck.com, FTC, Drew Stewart, Bailey Foote, Jason Chadwick, Abram Getchell, Bunny Fiend for FIA President. We'll take it, mate. Snigs, Alex Couchet, Max Voltar, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Rumpf, Lachlan the Maddened Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. Thank you all so much for supporting our podcast as races just keep coming. They just keep coming.
They sure do, especially when it's a sprint weekend. We have a lot to talk about, so let's just dive right into the fake water surrounding the marina. And start with this. I'm glad that it's still there. They don't, the broadcast and the media don't highlight the fact that the fake marina is still there, but it's there for the people who attend, and I'm very happy for them. The sprint grid looks like this. On sprint pole, Kimi Antonelli, the youngest quote-unquote pole sitter, I guess, of any kind in Formula One history. In second, Oscar Piastri, and behind him, the other McLaren of Lando Norris. I don't know if you guys saw this. In practice, Norris had to pit to remove tools that the team had left in the cockpit. Like, not small tools either. It was like a pipe wrench and a flashlight. It was like that scene in The Mask where they pull a bazooka out of his pants. Really funny.
So like a hand went down there and grabbed a bunch of this stuff and brought it back up. That seems genuinely dangerous when you've got pedals. I mean, I know their pedals are like higher, but like still, if you're like under braking, wouldn't something like fly forward and backwards?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want that. Max Verstappen in fourth. He actually missed Thursday's media commitments to welcome his daughter Lily to the world. Congrats to him and partner. Oh my gosh, I forgot her first name. Yes.
Kelly Piquet.
Piquet.
Yeah. Christian Horner, took like an hour to go full geneticist on this one.
Oh boy.
Racehorse owner and say, imagine the genes in that child.
I mean, don't be weird.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, but imagine the genes.
I know.
This is like some Bene Gesserit shit to try and get women into F1. This is as far you have to do to get a female driver into
eugenics. Bad. Don't like them. But we do have to admit we're curious what the child of Max Verstappen and Kelly Piquet could do.
They made the Kwisatz Haderach of Formula One, and her name is, what is it? Lily Verstappen?
Yep.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Lily Verstappen, make it happen. Print the shirts.
In fifth place on the sprint grid, George Russell. Sixth place, Charles Leclerc. Didn't make it to the grid itself, though. He, unfortunately, we had a lot of standing water on the track after a brief rainstorm, as happens in Miami. He hydroplaned into a wall on the reconnaissance lap, so will not take part in the sprint. And as a result, everybody moves up one grid spot. Seventh place, Lewis Hamilton, who said he almost did the same thing. Alex Albon will start 8th, Isaac Hadjar 9th, Fernando Alonso 10th. Nico Hulkenberg 11th, not bad for a Sauber, starting up there. Then we've got Ocon in 12th, Gasly 13th, Lawson 14th, Carlos Sainz in 15th. He locked way up in his Q2 run and had to take a runoff during his one hot lap. Lance Stroll 16th. 17th is Jack Doohan, who was livid after, as he says, Alpine sent Gasly into the pit lane ahead of him, which blocked him and apparently thus prevented him from getting into sprint qualifying too. We'll have more to say about Jack Doohan. Gabriel Bortoleto in 18th, Oliver Behrman 19th, and Yuki Tsunoda in 20th. He blamed traffic for disrupting his lap in SQ1.
He didn't get out, yeah. He didn't cross the line before the flags.
Yeah.
Traffic that may have been Max to an extent. I mean,
Yes,
like, a
100%.
lot of people had an issue with. They all went out in waves this time, which was interesting. There was nobody was offsetting anything. It was like all long queues to go out.
Yeah, so Yuki initially was going to start from the pit lane, but after Leclerc went out and we had a few laps behind the safety car and a red flag, he lined up then with everyone else on the grid for a wet standing start, which was technically lap 3 because of all that safety car stuff. Danny,
Yeah.
do you want to take us through? Or you know what? This wasn't the first race of the weekend.
Oh, yeah, I'm way ahead of you. So, yeah, so they, lights out, away they go. In front, we have Lando Norris driving with Oscar Piastri in the back seat. And he's fighting for contention with, I think it's Lewis is in the back, mostly holding his phone, and Charles Leclerc driving the Ferrari. They get down their blistering speeds of about, I think, probably 18 or 20 miles an hour as they make it down to turn 1. Immediately, we have Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz's Williams complaining of porpoising, jumping up and
bad.
down. Max Verstappen is weirdly jovial as well as they're turning it. And then there's an impact between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, which scatters Lego pieces all over the exit of turn 2. I can keep going. This is
Who was
Danny,
ahead at the apex? Really, is the
yeah.
the question.
You're right. The Ferraris and the Mercedes. I think the Ferrari overtook. The Ferrari Lego car overtook off track. It was behind the marshals were on the track already. Actually, it was quite dangerous.
Danny, what are you actually talking about?
I'm talking about the Lego race, man. The Lego race was the best race of the weekend. Did you see this?
I actually only saw pictures and clips.
Instead of the regular, what do they call it? Like the procession lap, the
Driver's Parade?
Driver's Parade.
Driver's Parade. Thank you. Yeah. Instead of having them in the back of a cattle truck waving at everyone, they sent them out in these I don't know what they are. They were very low RPM F1 looking cars with Lego liveries. And they were like Mario Kart Double Dash style, where they had 2 seats. So presumably they were using these as, things that people could rent or something. I don't know. But they were all done up in the liveries of the cars, and the drivers had the most fun, genuinely really enjoyed it, which I think is my favorite part of the whole thing, is that they were all cracking up. Hamilton afterwards said that was the most fun driver's parade he's ever had. A lot of them were crashing into each other. There was a great interview with Max afterwards where he's genuinely really liked it, but also being they better clear up all those Lego pieces before we go out there, because
yeah, those will cut a tire. For
yeah,
sure.
he said it. He said it jokingly one time, and then was like, "No, for real, they need to go out and get those."
He also complained about his car being down on power on the
straights.
Yeah. And it is funny, in the clips, there's a video of him at one point sort of doing the lunging forward in the seat, trying to make the car go faster.
Yeah. I think who was it? Was it the Williamses? I think. Who had the pink little bit on their car this week? It was the
it's Alpha. It's AlphaTauri. Jesus.
Oh boy.
the racing. Yeah, they were crashing into, I think, McLaren. They put them in the wall or something. They got pretty tasty. Chunks of front wing were coming off.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was
All
great.
right. Yeah, I gotta watch that. I'll put a link to it.
It was extremely cute. It
was
extremely good vibes.
Nice.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much they all enjoyed it. It seemed like they were all like laughing their heads off the whole time. I'm not sure if they waved much at the crowd, so maybe
They're so focused. I mean, listen,
Exactly.
as we know from Days of Thunder, you put drivers in anything wheeled, and they will
Yes.
take it very seriously.
Exactly, it's true.
All right, well, let's get serious and talk about the start of the sprint, Danny.
Yeah, well, I was happy they had a standing start because with all that rain, you were sort of a little bit worried that they might not, and it didn't even seem that crazy, the rain, but I guess there's something. Excuse me.
Well-
I guess there's something about the makeup of the track, and this may be
It's
similar to
Miami. It's
Saudi.
humid as hell. So
Humid,
once the
yeah,
air gets
right.
tossed up, it's not going anywhere, which I think was kind of the issue that year in Spa as well. Like,
Right.
part of the climate change is like there's just more capacity to hold moisture in the air, and so like you can clear water, but it goes up in the air, it just becomes a fog.
Yeah.
Like it was weird because I'm with you, Dan. It didn't look that bad, and then you had people on the radio being like, "These are the worst conditions I've
Yeah.
ever seen in my life." I'm like, "What is going on down there?"
Yeah, it's wild. So I'm glad that they started at least, they did. And the first two drivers on the front row did both pretty good. Kimi Antonelli, but Piastri has a good start and battles down into turn one. He's not ahead, but he's got the inside line, and Kimi tries to fight with him, sort of cook it around the outside, and can't make the apex. Ends up shooting out into the runoff, and in so doing loses not one, not two, but 3 places. Lando gets through, and so does Max Verstappen. Kimi is sort of then struggling for grip because he's re-entered and comes under, gets overtaken 2 turns later by George Russell as he comes under pressure by him. So the big loser, unfortunately, for Mercedes in that respect was Kimi Antonelli.
He ain't done losing.
Yeah, and no penalties there or anything, but Julian Palmer said with a little more experience, maybe he would have backed out and accepted second place rather than risk, what happened.
You haven't been in these situations very often. I'm sure the nerves were through the roof, but
Yeah.
to me, it was like he should not have. He tried to like cut over. Like he tried to do the very like elbows out. Like I'm just going to cut off the racing line. I think if he just stayed further outside and taken a wider line, he would have been able to continue contesting. But he kind of put himself in like the worst position. Like somebody's got to know it's not. You lost the start. You don't need to lose the race right now.
Yeah. Lap 4 of the sprint, Sainz, having made up a few positions at the start to 13th, dives down the inside of Ocon at the end of the back straight, but Ocon swoops back and regains the place. 2 laps later, Sainz goes to the outside and gets past, but overcooks it and goes wide, allowing Ocon back through. Bit of a preview of the feistiness of Williams this weekend. Lap 11, the track is now drying pretty quickly, and everyone's on intermediate tires, so here we start getting the rare sprint pit stop with Tsunoda coming in first, going on to mediums, and every team watching him like a hawk to see how those tires perform. Hamilton then comes in on lap 12, puts on soft tires. By the way, I noticed something that I wanted to point out here during this pit stop. So they cut during the pit stop while the car is up on the jacks. They cut to Hamilton's onboard. And there you can clearly notice that when they cut to the onboard, and this is true anytime they do it, the onboard camera is always like a half second behind. So it's just a good thing to keep in mind because it can make a pit stop seem much longer than it is.
Right, yeah. You know what also can make a pit stop look worse than it is? That
that,
Ferrari livery.
Oh,
I feel like we need to do like an acknowledgement of that.
You didn't like
how
the
much
blue.
HB blue there is.
Like nobody likes the blue on a regular weekend. The blue is sort of like necrosis, like taking over more of that livery the longer the season continues.
need to
Right
bring
now, it looks
Harper
like
back,
somebody
man.
like copy pasted a different livery on the back of the Ferrari.
It's not the most graceful. I think the uniform is the real crime. The livery the livery is one thing. I think they did an okay job with it, but the blue uniforms, I'm just not. they have such a good looking cut and like design of their uniforms, and then you do it in the blue, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I hate it.
Whoever is the like sort of brand manager for HB must be just like the most intimidating person in the world. It's just like, no, we're gonna need more blue and white there. Our printers are aren't selling very good right now. So by Spa it's going to be half the car, and then by the end of the year we'll have to have a new red team.
Maybe HP teamed up with Fanatics for those suits.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Verstappen comes in for a pit stop a lap later, followed closely by Antonelli. But then when Verstappen is released from his pit box, his front wing collides with Antonelli's rear right, who's coming into his pit box. But
very passive voice of you, Drew.
But because of the angle, Antonelli has to abort and continue on without pitting and try again on the next lap, which of course puts him way back in the field. It looks like a clear error by the team, not Verstappen. Although
the light went, and I'm so curious, like, is this related to them trying to fix the glitches that were happening with the release system in the previous race? Remember where the light wasn't coming on?
Yeah.
And the Red Bulls were delayed leaving the box. Did this time, like, have they worked on that? And now it led to just a wildly unsafe release that, like, put the final nail in Antonelli's race.
Yeah. I haven't done a super deep dive on this. I don't know that anyone has yet. The light didn't turn from red to green. It just turned from red to off. I don't know if that was intentional. Warning here. Caution, Helmut Marko. He called it in this Autosport article a judgment error and not an equipment failure.
Okay. So someone on the pit team did the dirt. It also like completely destroyed the left end plate of Max Verstappen's front wing. Scattered carbon fiber all over the pit lane, which is also not necessarily something you want, especially if your pit boxes before Red Bulls, which most of them are.
Or after, yeah.
So, sorry, you're right. No, they're closer to the front, so most of them aren't. So I guess that's not so bad because they're going to be taking their tires off, most of them. So not good for McLaren. Maybe that's the meta game here. Is they're just trying to,
collusion.
Exactly. But yeah, pretty bad one. And I felt bad for Kimi. What I would also say is I think Kimi did a great job because there was a world in which he didn't realize Max was doing that, kept coming in, and lost control of his car while he's entering a pit box surrounded by people. So
well, yeah, and even if you assume that he had been a meter further into his pit box and that had happened, and then he turns left,
could have turned him.
But if because he only narrowly missed his own pit crew
he hit
to
the
go
brakes
back into the
as well, pretty hard. Early. Yeah. So I think
it could have been real bad.
Yeah, I think Kimi also did a really good job here.
Yes, 100%.
Not turning it. It could have been a much worse incident, I think.
For this, the stewards did Verstappen a 10-second penalty. Things also not going super great for Sainz, who clips the inside of the turn 14 at the chicane, earning himself a puncture. So he limps back to the pits. Meanwhile, up at the front, Norris has closed to less than a second behind Piastri. Piastri, though, pits with Norris continuing on. Hamilton, lap 14, having come in early for those soft tires, quickly catches up to Verstappen, who's sitting in third, and attacks him around the outside of turn 11 with authority, sealing third place. Norris then pits from the lead, the last car on the intermediate tires, and the moment he enters the pit lane, a yellow flag comes out for Fernando Alonso, who is in the wall at turn 12, and with 3 laps remaining, the safety car is scrambled. It gets out of the pit lane first, and we see Piastri rounding the final corner, and then it is Norris who gets onto the track ahead of Piastri, effectively sealing the win.
Yes, in a move that Flavio Briatore would have really loved. Alonso crashes into the wall, allowing a safety car, which ensures that someone else who mightn't have had the pace perhaps wins the race. So.
On replay, it is Lawson who spins Alonso into the wall, earning Lawson a 5-second penalty. Unfortunately, it's not the only penalty. Behrman also gets a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release. And Albon gets 5 seconds for failing to stay above the minimum lap time under safety car. So the podium is Norris, Piastri, Hamilton. And then with all the penalties, 10 seconds drops Verstappen from 4th to 17th. 5 seconds drops Albon from 5th to 11th. Lawson from 8th to 13th. And Behrman from 9th to 14th. Meaning Russell and Stroll move up 2 spots from 4th to 5th. To 4th and 5th. And then into the points come Tsunoda, who started last and was first to pit, into 6th. And then Antonelli, who had to pit twice, goes up into 7th, and Gasly into 8th. So a real bananas sprint. I think this is the case for the sprint, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In case for sprinklers.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That too.
Yes. It's the shout, right?
I was sitting there being like, okay, maybe. I don't like the Miami venue and the way it's hyped up is like what a mega event, because like everything about Miami is always like what an awesome, incredible. Like Miami's very high on its own supply, and there's like an entire there's a lot that I'm just like, I don't know. It's like where it's like the tackiest American wealth tends to congeal. The race though was pretty good. And watching it, I was like, "Damn, this sprint fucking rocks!" And these guys are like fighting in every corner now.
Right?
Yeah.
It's something weird about this track. It's like it's can be kind of good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kind of good, but not quite good enough to get points. Hülkenberg, Hadjar, Albon, Ocon, Lawson, Behrman, Bortoleto, Doohan, and Verstappen coming up 17th with that 10-second penalty, ahead of only the DNFs of Alonso, Sainz, and Leclerc. All right, well, that is the sprint. We are going to take a quick break and be back with the race. All right, the race, everybody. On pole position, the real one, Max Verstappen, getting ahead of not only the McLarens, but the seemingly ascendant Kimi Antonelli. So Verstappen first, Norris second, Antonelli third, the first time out qualifying his teammate in a Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri will line up 4th, and George Russell, the other Mercedes, in 5th. Behind them, we've got Sainz and Albon, the 2 Williams cars, back-to-back in 6th and 7th. Then Leclerc in 8th, Ocon 9th, Tsunoda 10th, Hadjar 11th, Hamilton down in 12th. Gabriel Bortoleto is in 13th, his best grid spot of his career so far. Jack Doohan in 14th, also first time out qualifying his teammate. Liam Lawson will start 15th, then Nico Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Oliver Behrman, and Pierre Gasly in 20th. Danny, do you want to take us through the start of the Miami Grand Prix?
The Miami Grand Prix. Lights out. Away they go. Down to the first turn. Max Verstappen did what Kimi didn't do. Grabbed that inside line as fast as he possibly could. But he cooks it a little bit. He gets on those brakes. Locks up that front right just a tad. Which allows Lando to cut up the inside. But, Lando, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't fight Max into that turn. That turn's going to disappear real quick, but don't do it. And sure enough, Max either tactically loses grip or, to me, this is just a good move. But you know he's going to do it because he'll do it when he shouldn't do it. So when he should do it, he's definitely going to do it. And he forces Lando to back out. Lando goes off the track. Max keeps it on the track, all 4 wheels almost. And Lando, sort of like Antonelli in the previous race, loses a shed load of places because he went into a fight that he probably shouldn't have on that second turn. So he ends up back in like sixth, I think. Yeah. And I think is it Russell who ends up getting past Piastri during that whole fracas as well? Yeah,
I think that's
he does. And the exit of turn 2, he gets past him as well. So a lot of changing and not a great start for either McLaren.
Yeah, and no further action from the stewards here.
Yeah.
Also, the radio rewind video on F1's YouTube channel, which is often a better highlight video than the highlight video.
Oh, right.
Shows Sainz avoiding Norris during this and tapping Albon,
Oh.
which sort of comes into play later. But yeah, all this allows Antonelli to challenge Verstappen for the lead, which was exciting for a few seconds.
Not Russell.
Verstappen has the inside of the next corner, though, and Antonelli wisely backs off and this time slots into second. Elsewhere in the field, Doohan drifts into Lawson's side pod and kind of launches him into the air, earning himself a puncture and knocking both of them effectively out of the race. Lap 4, Antonelli comes under pressure with Piastri swinging up the inside as they come onto the second DRS straight. Hamilton also gets by Hadjar after Hadjar goes deep at turn 1. And meanwhile, Norris is also making moves, diving up the inside of Albon at turn 11 for 5th place.
Quick thing just about the start. I have never, when I saw the overhead views, I was like, that's just racing. He did nothing wrong. But Norris was early laps being like, he pushed me off. Max is doing it again. He's doing it again. But from Norris's in-car, I do understand how he feels like, what the fuck, man? This is like egregious. It's bizarre that like, because the in-car, the fixed plane of reference is like Norris's car, it does look like Max just comes swinging over with like a take you out move. And then the overhead camera is like Max is trying to hold his line and maybe like slides a little bit and Norris is in a bad position. But it was just a interesting moment of like, I am pretty sure that from Norris's perspective, it looked like Max is basically cheating. And once again, nobody's looking out for poor Lando. And every other perspective, it's like, that's just racing. Not even the hardest racing we've seen.
That's the thing. I think if it's not Verstappen and Norris in that situation, it doesn't pique our ears as much as it does. It's sort of like a boy who cries wolf situation here, reverse boy who cries wolf. And
also Lando, we know there's a way to make Max give you a little more room. You just gotta be willing to pay the toll.
Yeah,
you just
exactly
just hold it in there, son.
And the thing is as well, I think like tactically, like he should have known that like for instance, the one of the issues I guess with turn 1 in Saudi is that what you can do there is get on the throttle early and power through that turn so that you don't lose position if you get forced off. You can't do this here because it's a much tighter turn, and I think the curbs are also significantly higher. So it's not one that you can hazard it around the outside and then bail out and not lose 4 positions like he did. So I think like tactically, when Verstappen is doing that in Jeddah, if he's around the outside, it makes sense there because of the makeup of the track, but it doesn't really make sense to do it here. And I think, it was really costly. Like I put him pretty far back.
Speaking of overhead shots, shout out to the only good use of drone footage.
I don't know if it's a drone.
Are you sure?
I think it's a crane.
A squirrel cam above. If you're talking about the final corner, the direct overhead looking at the line, there's a squirrel cam line above it. That was my assumption. It was a camera on a wire.
It looks really high.
The camera, I think, is too good. It doesn't have deep focus, which drones tend to, because they're obviously constantly shifting their height and whatnot. To me, it's too sharp. To me, it's like
I thought then they showed from the same place it also tracking with it, which was a worse shot. But anyway,
maybe.
Either way, we're all agreed.
Great shot.
That top down like diagram capture of the racing line was incredible. It shows like how the different cars are attacking that corner. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah. I think also they may have rotated the orientation of the camera later in the race. Yeah, I don't know. Nice. But yeah, shout out to people, the production crew, keep pushing the boundaries. Let's see here. Albon, lap 5, comes under attack from his teammate in that same turn 11 spot. Sainz sweeping around the outside to retake the 6th place that he lost at the start. Albon nursing a water pressure issue, perhaps from that contact with Sainz at the start. Lap 7, Norris continues his charge, attacking Russell on the back straight and getting by for 4th place. And 2 laps later does the same thing to Antonelli into 3rd. Lap 10, weird moment for Alonso, who just spins, seemingly for no reason.
Yeah.
Still waiting for that Aston Martin to become good, like everyone says it's going to. But I guess that's 2026 when the Newey design comes
Exactly.
in.
It got good style points,
We, like, genuinely, Lance Stroll in F1 because of his dad. In the worst car because of his dad. Like, if there's anything that illustrates the expense that, like, CEO brain can inflict on a company, they had to pay Adrian Newey a king's ransom because it appears that as the only person that Lawrence Stroll will fucking listen to when it comes to, like, building and maintaining an F1 team. Because, like, since he showed up, took a perfectly good midfield team and just fucked it completely. Like, that team is ruined. Their only hope now is that Adrian Newey is going to sprinkle his magic fairy dust on the car and, like, it will vault itself forward. But it appears like, boy, things do not seem great over how things have unfolded there. And I just, it correlates directly with Lawrence being like, I'm in charge. Oh, Mark, get the fuck out of here.
I will point out that Stroll is the only driver with any points on the team and is currently 10th in the championship, making Aston Martin 7th in the championship. So take that what you will, I guess. All right, where were we? So yes, lap 11, Piastri has been chasing down Verstappen. The McLarens looking like the vastly superior cars. And this is what excites me about this season. You know, we've got a strong car in the McLaren, 2 drivers there, and then versus Max Verstappen's enormous talent. So I think the season could it bodes well. Verstappen not going to make it easy for Piastri and defends, making Piastri go to the outside, which is a no-go. 2 laps later, Verstappen defends to the inside and brakes late, again thwarting Piastri. Verstappen's engineer telling him to keep defending that inside line. And it's time for me now to ask a question. In the rules, it states that the driver must drive the car alone and unaided. And I remember years ago them clamping down on the sorts of things that the pit wall could tell the driver. And it feels like we've escalated back up to a lot of data that they can tell them. Not only how to defend, but like, where am I losing time? Oh, you need to brake later into this, that kind of stuff. Like, I haven't decided for myself whether I think that is okay or maybe even cooler to have them be able to tell the driver that thing. So the driver still has to then do it. But I don't know. The rules are vague, and just not sure what I think about this. Piastri then gets a run with DRS on the start-finish straight, and again Verstappen defends to the inside, but this time locks up and drifts off the track, allowing Piastri to cut back and take the lead. I thought this was a great battle. You know, like I said, Verstappen defending with a worse car, but amazing talent, keeping him behind for as long as he did.
Well, and Piastri playing the mental game that you love to see, right? The chess match of, I'm going to figure out like what the moves are. I'm going to set this up and then kind of break your ankles with that overtake, right? He totally gets Max to commit. Like, Max is playing a losing hand, like that is for sure. But like, Max is forced to commit in such a way that he ends up like completely losing the position and going off. And Piastri is revealed to Max is like practically defending the wrong place, right? Like, Piastri is actually set up to just cut under him no matter what. It's terrific, and compares interestingly with what happens when Norris catches up a bit later.
I think there's a generous interpretation in this was like a clean overtake and a strategic, misadventure by Verstappen. I think there's a less generous interpretation of this, which is that it's really hard to overtake this guy without crashing into him. Like, he brakes on turn 1 and basically cuts off the entire rest of the track for Piastri. Piastri doesn't so much like brake better and cut in as he brakes sort of adequately and then has to avoid Verstappen to not crash into him. So I think it just shows you how good Max is at defending, and obviously there are times where he crosses over into driving behavior that people find questionable, and I think this is a great driver in Piastri, being able to react in the moment and not also get collected by a car that was out of control.
Yeah. Lap 14, the Williams cars are once again scrapping it out. Albon getting by Sainz for 6th. And again, in the Radio Rewind video, you can hear Sainz saying, you something like, you told me Alex had been told to stay behind. So I'm anxiously awaiting the Val's verdict from Miami. And now it is Norris's turn to try to get by Verstappen, which takes a lot longer for Norris than it did for Piastri. Norris tries it into turn 1 and does keep tires on the track, but Verstappen stays ahead. Norris then told by his engineer what Piastri did, which again goes to my point earlier, saying that, Piastri defended to the inside and ran him wide. Verstappen defended Piastri to the inside and ran him wide each time. He also was told that Verstappen's complaining about his brakes. Lap 17, Norris goes to the inside at turn 11 and dives very deep, forcing Verstappen and himself off track.
Classic Verstappen move, but you got to keep the wheels on the track, Lando.
He wisely gives this place back since he left the track to gain that advantage, but not before Verstappen locks up again to avoid rear-ending Norris. Lap 18, though, Norris gets a stronger run with DRS into turn 11 and this time seals the deal up into second place. Rob, did you have anything to say about the difference between Piastri and Norris's overtakes of Verstappen?
Oh, it just kind of feels like, obviously, it's kind of like Max having a different chance to fight McLaren again. Maybe he's learned more, but it sometimes feels like Norris will let himself get put in a position where he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to go around the outside. And that is such a low percentage move. Like it feels like, a lot of times it feels like it might work. That's I think the danger of the outside line is that it feels like you're always this close to making it, but like it's rarely as close as it looks. And Norris will kind of bash his head against those attempts and take a lot out of his tires, put a lot of his race in in Max's hands, and like the time it takes him to manage this, was it decisive? I don't know, but it was less clean. It was harder fought, and I think it was maybe made a little bit harder by the fact that Norris will just sort of try to bulldoze through the low percentage moves, rather than sort of like kind of take the approach that Piastri will, which is like, okay, I need to set something up here, and like find where that opening is going to happen, like based on how Max is defending, and Norris will just kind of try to shoot alongside and force it through. And I think it's one of the reasons that Norris struggles a lot, I think, with Max in particular. But I think it also kind of showcases like, he's very, very good, but he has a problem in that he has a teammate who's also very, very good and appears to have some advantages at some of like the racecraft elements of the job.
I would also say, and so ends the interesting part of the Miami Grand Prix. Like the opening 18, 19 laps were really fantastic, and the race sort of
we needed that downpour.
Settles in a bit.
Like so much of this is also shaded by the fact that like there's a lot of red on the radar screen. Like maybe a big rainstorm is going to come flooding in here, and everyone's trying to stretch their tires to make that happen. But the rain never shows up like that, and so it does kind of settle in. The McLarens drive off into the distance. I think, there's a reason we're going to be talking a lot about Lewis radio messages, in the second half of this race.
I mean, we do get a great battle lap 22 between Hamilton and Ocon for 10th place, and I'm sure Ferrari isn't too thrilled about it being as close a battle as it is, but I really enjoyed this part. Hamilton getting real close to the wall and holding the turn to not understeer into Ocon, who's like 2 inches away.
They both are like millimeter perfect.
Yeah. Hamilton eventually seals it on the final DRS straight.
Well, we saw this and how aggressive he can be in the Lego race. Gasly was really willing to put it all out there and lose chunks of the amount of brickwork that came off that front wing. He's willing to just lay it all out, leave it on the track. All the Lego pieces,
all the Legos.
Yeah.
Lap 27, Tsunoda pits and runs a few kph over the speed limit, earning himself a 5-second penalty. And soon after, Behrman's engine quits. Good old flame out the back. This brings out the virtual safety car, which allows a lot of folks to get cheap pit stops. And the track goes green right as Russell is completing his stop, but he still manages to get out ahead of Verstappen, having jumped him in the pits. Lap 31, the other Mercedes of Antonelli comes under pressure from Albon at turn 1. Antonelli defending to the inside, but overcooking it just like Verstappen, so Albon cuts back to take 5th place. That water issue seemingly resolved. And at the same time, in our little picture-in-picture window, Sainz gets by Leclerc on some warmer, hard tires into 7th place. And lap 33, another virtual safety car for Bortoleto with a power unit issue. Verstappen claiming over the radio that Russell did not lift off the gas for the yellow flag, something that was later dismissed by the stewards after the race. We get a restart a lap later, and we resume that Sainz-Leclerc battle. Leclerc coming back at Sainz at turn 17. Sainz leaving barely enough room between him and the wall and keeping ahead, but Leclerc has DRS on the main straight and takes Sainz deep into turn 1, getting the pass done and allowing Hamilton to get Sainz as well. Both teams of commentators initially thought, oh my God, Hamilton's going to get both of them. But it was just the one. And here we enter the Ferrari zone, Danny. Leclerc is ahead of Hamilton in 7th place, 6.5 seconds behind Antonelli. Hamilton, though, is on medium tires to Leclerc's hards, both of them having stopped on successive laps. And if you've watched F1 long enough, you know what is coming next. Hamilton claiming he's faster, wants Ferrari to let him pass, so Leclerc, he can chase down Antonelli. And, it makes a kind of sense. Hamilton has the faster tire, but Ferrari balks, saying after the race that they were afraid of Leclerc being at risk to Sainz, who is close behind, which does not go down well with Hamilton. He complains that he's just cooking his tires behind Leclerc since he's following so closely. So he says, do you want me to just sit here for the whole race? And he gets, we will come back to you.
Stay in the DRS. That's good. We definitely want the guy in the medium tires just hanging out there in the DRS.
Eventually, Ferrari swaps them around, but this is like 4 laps after that. So Hamilton is unable to make any big inroads against Antonelli, perhaps owing to the conditions of his tires, and eventually Ferrari swaps them back. And even that's kind of a cluster.
Yeah.
Because they tell Leclerc that it's going to happen, but they don't tell Hamilton to do it. And so Leclerc's like, well, what happened?
That's the order of operations there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Really, really catty messages from Hamilton. Like the first time they are told to swap, he says, all right, yeah, sure, have a tea break while you're at it. And then once he's back behind Leclerc, he's informed that Sainz is behind him. And he says, good. You want me to let him pass as well?
I like that one. He clearly doesn't know Italians very well, though. They're going to go for an espresso. They're not going to have a tea break. This isn't jolly old England,
It looks like... Go ahead, Rob.
Well, so this is all caught up in the, what's with Lewis's form this year? There's a lot of hand-wringing about, basically, in so many ways, people are asking, so is Lewis Hamilton washed? Is it just over? It didn't look amazing that last year at Mercedes. He's getting his ass kicked at Ferrari a little bit. What's going on? And I don't know. I hope that's not true. Probably Lewis is the last driver I'm going to be a fan of in that way. But it's tough here because to me it looked like he had momentum. The medium tires were in that envelope, and it's you got to make hay while the sun shines with tire strategy, right? 3 laps closely following your teammate, where the team is like, let us get back to you. Hey, stay in the DRS zone. So also like saying, don't try to overtake on your own. Like, just sit tight. We're going to figure this out. With tires who's operating like optimums are this narrow, I can't, because when Lewis finally is allowed to go past, he doesn't do shit, right? Like, he has no extra pace. Now, quickly Leclerc is saying he's being held up. It's kind of embarrassing all around.
Well, and it may look that way because Leclerc is getting DRS to Hamilton, but yeah.
But is it also that they kind of squandered, like, the moment where Lewis could have, like, run up the road in clean air and made the most of those tires? And I don't know. My instinct is yes. Like, it looked like that car was... It looked like the car was in the zone, and he was in the zone with those tires. And then it all goes wrong with this delay. But maybe what ends up happening is Lewis thinks he has pace sometimes, but like he's not getting out of that Ferrari, and the whole thing was kind of a bit of wasted effort. I don't know. My gut says it was probably like, you got to let the guy in the medium tires go through. And what's weird is, by delaying the decision, we've talked about this before, by clearly on the pit wall, wringing your hands over this, like this is a momentous decision, you make it a bigger deal than it should be. This is a pretty straightforward one. Yeah. Charles, different tire strategy. Lewis has got a window here to go make progress in the running order of this race. He's got to go up ahead the road. That's just pretty basic F1 strategy. But you've turned it into a weird team politics thing because you froze, unable to say like something pretty simple, which is like, there's just a clear, different, optimal like running order we got here. We just need to go into it. And instead they're like, fuck, what do we do?
So after the race, Fred Vasseur, in this quote here from Autosport, says, we have a general policy and we follow the policy. The question was not to swap and to swap back if you don't get the guy who's in front of you. The issue at that stage was to understand if the car behind is faster than the car in front or if it's just the DRS effect. So he is saying that the delay was a result of them trying to analyze, well, is Lewis actually faster than Leclerc, or is he merely up against the back of him because he's in the DRS? But that doesn't excuse what you're saying, Rob. It's like, you've known from the beginning of this race that they are on different strategies. Why not let them, let Lewis Hamilton through immediately when you saw that as an opportunity? So Ferrari gonna Ferrari, I guess. But that is almost it. It looks like Hamilton is safe to Sainz.
Oh boy!
But at the very last moment, we cut to Sainz and Hamilton banging wheels. Sainz having made a move at the turn 17 on the last lap. Hamilton manages to hold him off for 8th. On replay, Hamilton appears to turn in pretty early. And both are really lucky to have not had a worse incident, because it's like it's multiple.
You see it as
together.
turning in early. To me, it looks like Carlos is doing the most like playing in open lobbies in Forza I've ever fucking 100%.
Okay.
Like it is the like, fuck it, it's the last lap. I haven't been able to do it. I'm going through. He practically T-bones Lewis. A sharp corner. He hits Lewis with his like closer to the nose, and he hits Lewis more in the midsection of the car. It was like the complete torpedo run for me.
Yeah.
He is so lucky it didn't go bad, because I think the Williams lives have been so good. They got kind of unlucky with Albon's penalty in the sprint race, all that. But like, if Carlos just lost his cool, torpedoed the guy who took his seat at Ferrari, and also destroyed his race at the literal last corner, we'd be having such a different conversation today. It's like it is like one of those things where it was like, if this has gone wrong, we have a major issue, and people would be talking about it for like the following 2 weeks. Because it didn't, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. Let's go back to like talking about how pretty Carlos's hair is and how catty Lewis's messages were.
Yeah, it's wild. They were just they were stuck together basically. It was wild that nothing broke or puncture or anything. Yeah, I mean, Lewis defended on the inside. Carlos said that he moved under braking, but it's like, no, you were about to dive bomb up the inside, so he was at least trying to stop you
making
from
the corner.
pushing
Bro,
you
yeah, he
wide.
was turning. He moved
Yeah.
under braking because he was turning in the turn.
A move straight out of the Lego race, if we're honest. I think that's where that was learned. Maybe he was just trying to like, this is for my brother, Alex Albon. This is for all the times you took him out when he was in Red Bull.
It's true. It's true. Payback.
Exactly.
Well, Oscar Piastri gets his third win in a row, bringing home the top trophy in Miami. Lando Norris, second step at the podium, and George Russell in third, having made up 2 spots from his grid position. Max Verstappen will finish fourth. Alex Albon, fifth. He said after the race, I don't think I've ever seen Max from start to finish in a race, not even in my Red Bull days. So, what does that say? Andrea Kimi Antonelli comes home in 6th place. Charles Leclerc 7th, Lewis Hamilton 8th, Carlos Sainz 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda, that final point there, down in 10th place. Isaac Hadjar tried to keep within 5 seconds of Tsunoda, because remember, Tsunoda had that penalty. But says he made a few mistakes on that final lap, so was not able to get that final point there. In 12th, we've got Ocon, 13th, Gasly, 14th, Hulkenberg, 15th, Alonso, and 16th, Lance Stroll, followed by the DNFs of Lawson, Bortoleto, Behrman, and Doohan. In the championships, Drivers' Championship remains the same for the top 10 as last week. Piastri leads with 131 points. Norris is in second, 16 points behind with 115. Verstappen's in third, 16 points back with 99. Russell's in fourth, only 6 points behind with 93. Leclerc is in fifth, 40 points behind with 53. Antonelli is in sixth, 5 points back with 48. Hamilton in seventh, 7 points behind with 41. Albon is in eighth, 11 points back with 30 points. Ocon is in ninth, 16 points behind with 14, and tied with Stroll, who is in 10th. Tsunoda, with 4 points from this weekend, moves up 5 places to 11th, 5 points back with 9 total points. And this weekend means he has now scored more with Red Bull than with Racing Bulls this year. Gasly drops a place to 12th, 2 points behind with 7, and is tied on points with Sainz, who moves up 2 spots to 13th. Hulkenberg is in 14th, 1 point behind with 6, and tied on points with Behrman in 15th. Hadjar is in 16th, 1 point behind with 5, and then Alonso in 17th, Lawson 18th, Doohan 19th, and Bortoleto 20th, all with 0 points. The Constructors' Championship also remains the same this week. McLaren leading with 246 points. Mercedes is in second, 105 points back with 141. Red Bull's in third, 36 points behind with 105. Ferrari in fourth, 11 points behind Red Bull with 94 points. Williams is in fifth, 57 points back with 37. Haas is in sixth, 17 points behind with 20. Aston Martin is in seventh, 6 points behind with 14. Racing Bulls in 8th, 6 points back with 8 points. Alpine's in 9th, 1 point behind with 7. And Sauber in 10th, 1 point behind with 6. It's a lot of numbers. All right, should we take it to the news?
Let's do it.
As we mentioned, teased at the top, this from Autosport. Alpine F1 team considers immediate Doohan and Colapinto switch for Imola. Imola, of course, the next race. This is stemming from not only the constant pressure we've had ever since Doohan got that seat, that there might be some too much and Doohan would be out in favor of somebody else. That somebody else is Franco Colapinto, hanging in the wings, having had a strong showing last year when he filled in at Williams. So this is now reaching a fever pitch because, let's see, it is the CEO of Argentinian energy giant YPF Horacio Martin is his name. Probably Horacio.
CEO Martin.
Yeah, CEO Horatio Martin.
Sorry. I thought the name
said
of the company was YPF Horatio. I thought the CEO's name was Martin. Okay.
Oh no, it's Marin. Horatio Marin. I could have said that a lot more easily if
NorCal represent.
That's right. He said, like sort of a hot mic thing, he said that Colapinto's going to be in the car in Imola, later clarifying that it was wishful thinking on his behalf, but that doesn't stop Autosport by saying Autosport understands that Alpine is considering switching Doohan and Colapinto ahead of the next race, which to me, when they say understands, means that they've got some stuff behind that. So again, by the time this podcast posts, perhaps it will be done.
Yes, exactly.
We just
Who
killed
knows
Doohan.
whether that is a permanent switch or if they've said that things to the effect that like they're trying out Doohan, maybe they'll try out Colapinto. Who knows?
Depends
But
how
we
much
might have a different guy.
there is. you know?
Exactly.
I
That's right.
can't imagine like doing just punch that old man. Just punch him. Like I can't like having to like be hat in hand with a dude that condescending, and then to sort of be boxed in this way, man. Just like I don't know. I would maybe just jack him up on the
I shaved
on the
my
way.
head for you, Flavio.
Okay, well that might have been where he lost the mandate of heaven. The other thing is, I've been following this a little bit. There's some discussion of like the Colapinto fans being kind of toxic and out of hand online. Which remember Agustin Canapino in IndyCar, similar
Yes.
issues cropped up. And I gather I've seen some like discussion from this like in the F1 the Shift F1 Discord and just other places, but like even by the standards of like fandoms in South America, like Argentinian fans have a reputation of not just being passionate, which is like just that's par for the course with like football teams, motorsports in those countries, but being kind of like abusive assholes online about the entire thing, doing like tons of brigading type tactics and stuff like that. That sort of like now that might just be it's marked out because like Argentina doesn't have the same profile, so you notice it more when it's happening from like Argentine fans versus like say Brazilian fans. I don't know, but even before this is like built up, there's been stuff about like Colapinto fans making life fucking miserable for other people who are like Nigel Mansell's son like posted a thing where it was like give Doohan a chance and just like swarms of Colapinto boosters being like shut the fuck up, and I think that hurt Agustin Canapino's career in IndyCar, and I think that is my concern. Colapinto seems awesome. He seems like a cool dude. And I think his manager has tried to tamp down on like people advocating for him too intensely online. But I think like if he gets a seat at the big show, right? Like stuff's gonna happen. It will break containment if his fans are toxic assholes, and it will make him look bad. So that's just a thing to watch out for in terms of like how the dynamics of this swap will happen, because we have seen weird vibes crop up around Argentine drivers before, in part because of like this intense fandom issue.
Yeah. Well, we will see. We will also see, Rob, whether the Coscat will continue to exist.
We are look, it is every week. It is Ben Sulayem shut the fuck up Friday, basically. So there's two things. So everything about him again screams loser, and he has one thing that's come up a lot in the last few years, which is people should give the FIA more money. They should give him more money, and like he was floating this idea of the FIA feels too many complaints about regulations breaches, and it costs money to investigate these things. So maybe teams should like pay us to like investigate these things, so that we cut down on like frivolous lawsuits, basically, right? Which already is kind of weird. We got the head of the FIA being like, "Come on, give us a little, sure, we'd love to investigate it, but give us a little taste." But while he's talking about this, he also says, "I he's like, if we institute this rule, which I think he's the only person thinking of it, he then said, well, but then would we consider the cost of filing these complaints against the cost cap? And he gives this quote, I'm looking at the cost cap, and it's just giving the FIA a headache. So what's the point of it? I don't see the point. I really don't.
Of the cost cap.
Yeah, of the cost cap. A thing that, like, was excruciatingly negotiated by all the F1 teams and was at the time, I think in the backdrop of, like, COVID, viewed as, and, like, of existential import for a lot of the teams to stay in F1. Now, nobody knew the sport was going to blow up that huge, and, like, you know, we're in salad days right now. But point is, this was a thing that was, like, hard fought. A lot of the team bought into the system, etc. And now he's just randomly shooting off at the mouth, being like, I don't know, what's the point? I don't like enforcing it. It's just further like death spiral stuff, but also it's like, this is such a big thing and was so painful for everyone to arrive at that point, to just be out there being like, this sucks, I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
It seems really reckless.
He's just throwing anything he can now. My V10 idea didn't work. What else is a popular thing that I can wedge between the groups maybe? And yeah, I don't know, just getting sick of this.
If I were
already sick of this guy, but
if I were Stefano Domenicali, CEO of F1, I would just be. I mean, what do you do? Do you also go to the media and start fighting this guy?
Well, the vote's coming, right? So I think they're all just waiting.
Yeah.
For the next.
You're right. You're probably just in WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, and maybe they have their new king picked out. Who knows? But I say king because I assume
have
it's
friends
old
from
man.
Sicily.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I was just wondering if Stefano Domenicali has friends from Sicily. I am just asking questions.
Hey, look,
maybe a Northern Italian is not the person we need for this moment right now.
MBS is also, they're also pretty good at finding people to take people out. So just saying, let's not come to that.
Well, speaking of enforcement, Danny.
Yeah.
The police.
The police. Yuki Tsunoda.
Roxanne!
You don't have to put on a red light, but that's what most of the intersections in Miami have, because the drivers, while they seem to like the town of Miami, lots of the drivers, younger drivers especially, are into the fun that can be had in Miami. Well, the one thing they're not happy about is the same thing that Miami locals aren't, which is the traffic. During the pre-race press conferences, Yuki brought up the topic of traffic, saying it's a bit of a topic, to which Pierre Gasly responded, "You get a police escort. What are you complaining about?" Which I thought was quite funny. Apparently, Miami ranks like 11th worst in terms of traffic delay times by city globally.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I found this website, INRIX, which has a scorecard of congestion. Do you want to know who's above them?
Sorry, is this worldwide?
This is globally, yeah.
Okay, so Moscow has to be up there, right?
It's not above them, it looks like. It's Brisbane, LA, Jakarta, Cape Town, Paris, Mexico City, where we also have a GP, London, Chicago, New York, and then Istanbul.
Okay.
So in America, Miami is 6th, looks like. Philly, Boston, and then LA, Mexico, Chicago, New York above them. It's in terms of traffic delays by city. Seattle's up there pretty high too. When asked about this, Norris said the traffic's terrible. Is it worse than Mexico? It might be, because in Mexico there's kind of no roads. Here I've never seen so many roads, yet there's still so much traffic. That's the only thing I would probably change. I don't think he meant
Lando cutting right to the heart of modern thought on urban planning.
Right.
Like, you build a road, it just fills up. You can't build your way out of traffic.
Exactly.
Can't be done.
He's like, there's only one road in Mexico because Tenochtitlan is several thousand years old or whatever. They couldn't just stick freeways everywhere like in beautiful Miami. But yeah, so yeah, they're F1 drivers are just like us. Some days it just takes a while to get to work.
Even when there's cops ahead of you.
Police escorts, exactly, yeah. Hey, didn't stop them shooting at Jensen Button in Brazil that time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Could be worse, guys. Could be worse.
All right. Well, if you would like to join the standings yourself, you can join our fantasy league. Here's the top 3 from Miami. It's a tie for first between the super fast Soup, S-O-U-P.
Oh, I like it. Super.
SF Blackjack Fast, and McJesus Take the Wheel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. But overall,
Jesus.
we have the podium looks like this: a two-way tie for second place between We Haas to win and Solid as Snake.
Wow.
So keeping it real. And then in first, The Fast of Us 2025.
That's pretty good. I like that one.
Yeah.
Which one was Solidus? Is that Liquid? No. Solidus was the old guy.
It is all a jumble in there. I played those games back to back, and it is all just
R.I.P. Metal Gear Scanlon.
Which one of the Les Enfants Terribles was Solidus Snake? That I want to know.
Yeah, don't know my lore as much as I would have.
Got to get you back in the saddle. It sounds like.
I mean, I wanna play that Delta game. It looks real good.
What's the Delta
really
game?
liked MGS Delta, the remake of 3.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm so mad my introduction to that series was MGS4. That my most PS3 pilled friends were like, this game's art. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's
drinking
like
Coca-Cola.
Let me tell you about the Beauty and the Beast squad.
Oh my god.
By the way, this guy's shitting his pants.
Rage. So good.
Fourth one is
solid cast. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean that's the fourth one is just fan service. So I think you get the most out of it having played
Yeah.
the preceding ones.
Doesn't have a guy made of bees though, does it?
No.
Doesn't have a guy made of bees. Oh god, not the bees. They should do that. They should do a voice pack. Nick Cage.
We should
bring back your goddamn honey. Can we get that new version of the Wicker Man on our video? Is there a car in that?
We need to.
Can we? How to get burned? How to get burned? How to get burned?
Shift+F1podcast@gmail.com if you'd like to write in with your favorite Nicolas Cage films.
That's a wrap.
F1.cool/emails. You can also send us some stuff on the socials using the links in the show notes. That's us around the internet. Should we take it around the world, Denny?
Let's race around the world. Yeah.
We've got MotoGP in France at the Bugatti circuit for the Le Mans rounds. The IndyCar series is racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course for the Sancio Grand Prix. World Endurance Championship is at Spa for the Total Energies 6 Hours of Spa. The Craftsman trucks are at the Kansas Speedway for the Heart of Healthcare 200. The Repco Supercars are in Tasmania.
Whoa, the Devils.
That's right. At the Simmons Plains Raceway for the Tasmania Super 440.
I assume Taz will be winning that.
That's right.
Nice.
Motocross Grand Prix is in Spain at the Circuito Municipal Jorge Prado for the Motocross Grand Prix of Spain. The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is at Laguna Seca for the Moto Corsa de Monterrey. And we got NASCAR.
Yeah.
Also at the Kansas Speedway for the Advent Health 400. Real healthy, that Speedway, apparently.
Yep. Whip out your calendar.
All right, that's what's happening this weekend. What happened on this day in the past, Danny?
I'm sorry, boys. We've entered the dark zone.
Oh, man.
Yeah, last week was bad. Last week was arguably the most depressing week in Formula One. So yeah, we went too long.
I know. We had
I feel like
clean run, and
it was like good 6 months of no one dying. So
time to pay the piper.
Yeah, because they didn't used to run F1 during
That's
6
true.
months of the year. Like, hey, the Grimoire hasn't been so sad lately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
it's not going to be sad in February.
yeah, that's fair. Well, on this day, May 7th, Ferrari's Italian driver Lorenzo Bandini qualified on the front row of the grid for the Monaco Grand Prix on this day in 1967 and was running second when he crashed at the chicane and his car rolled over and caught fire. He was trapped underneath the burning wreckage, and marshals had to right his car before pulling his unconscious body out. He died 3 days later from his injuries. He said once, "I think life is all fate. It's not only a man driving a car. If you have to go, it is written. Your time is that day. You will die whether you go racing or not."
Wow.
There you go. Pathetic words. I don't know. Since 1992, his family has awarded the Lorenzo Bandini Trophy to an outstanding figure from the world of racing. Fellow Italian Ivan Capelli was the first recipient. That's a pretty horrific way to die. I'll just say that. If it's written in the stars, I'd prefer not to die under a burning car in Monaco. Personally. That's a rough one. There you go.
Very common way for drivers to go back then. That is the part where, like, they did it willingly, and they were like, "Yeah, fuck it, I will live with this risk." Because, like, it was the thing that scared the shit out of World War II pilots more than anything. Was like burning to death in Iraq.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely scared the hell out of them. And, like, there's a reason. Like, sometimes race drivers were like, "I don't like to wear belts. Better to die being thrown clear."
Yeah. All right, well, final thoughts after the Miami Grand Prix, Danny.
Where are we next? It's Imola, isn't it? Yeah, Imola. Off to Imola again. Speaking of, jeez Louise. I don't know. This was a race that almost entered legendary status if we just had a little bit of water. I think that second half of the race would have been spice melange, but fortunately, it wasn't. But yeah, it was first half was good fun, and then I was just glad to be in the Shift F1 Discord for the latter half because we had lots of fun memes being thrown around.
Yeah, including a really great Photoshop of Ben Suliam.
I think it might be I think I might use it as the
YouTube thumbnail.
Yeah, MGB posted it, so shout out to MGB. I don't know if they made it or pulled it off Formula
Dank. I don't know if it's a Shift F1 original, but it's tremendous.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Final thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race weekend. I think, yes, the race did run out of steam a little bit, but interesting qualifyings, really good sprint, really fun first half of the race. I'm sorry, Miami. I let my bias against your gaudy garbage town turn me against what is a pretty good race, despite the fact it's in a parking lot. They raced the shit out of that parking lot.
Yeah.
Also, hasn't it been extended to like 2041?
Yes.
That's
what?
Because I complained about this on Blue Sky. I was like, now I'm rooting for climate change. And
that marine is going to get a lot more real.
People were like, "Hey, but hang on, this is going to be a better race than Suzuka." And I was like, "God damn, it was."
Yep. 2041. That's not a year. That is a suffix of a Wipeout game.
Will I be old? I might be considered old by then.
Oh my god. Yeah.
All right, well, if you'd like to support the show and get access to all of the bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.